Hi guys, it's Han here. Today we're going to check out the 2024 Lexus TX500H. Thanks to all for the help provided. Welcome to subscribe my car reviews channel both in English and Chinese. Thank you all for subscribing, liking, commenting, sharing, and lighting up the bell. The Lexus TX is positioned in the luxury midsize three-row SUV segment in the US market. There are three powertrains planned for the US market. A set of more cost-effective mainsail models. The 2.4-liter turbocharged engine is equipped with an 8-speed automatic transmission, which we have introduced in many videos before. The high-end power is based on 2.4-liter 4-cylinder turbocharged engine with 6-speed automatic transmission. Each is equipped with a power motor at the front and rear, with a 288-volt, 5-amp-hour, 1.4-kilowatt nickel-metal hydride battery pack. 0-60 miles per hour, time is 6.1 seconds according to official information. At present, this powertrain has also become a high-end solution for large Toyota family to replace 6-cylinder engines in mid-size vehicles, which we have already experienced in many models. The top-of-the-line powertrain for the TX is a 3.5-liter V6 engine that makes a plug-in hybrid system. In terms of external dimensions, the TX series of vehicles are not much different. It's just that the TX500H is about 0.4 inches longer than the other two models in total length, about 10 millimeters longer. The suspension is a McPherson strut front and multi-link rear. The minimum ground clearance of TX500H is 7.99 inches, about 203 millimeters, which is slightly higher than other grades. The TX500H curb weight is 4,049 pounds, 2,045 kilograms. Maximum towing capacity is 5,000 pounds, with a 17.17-gallon 65-liter fuel tank, which is a little smaller than a gasoline TX350. It is a bit larger than the 3.5-liter plug-in hybrid TX550H+. As the high-end power of the TX family, the TX500H is currently only available with the F-Sport Performance package. It is divided into two basic trims, high and low. We can see that the MSRP including shipping is not cheap anymore, but it's still cheaper than the TX550H+. Today we're checking out the 2024 TX500H, a test vehicle we picked up these days, and it's the high-trim four-wheel drive, standard with the F-Sport Tune Performance suspension, performance shocks and rear-wheel steering, dual LED headlamp, LED fog lights and turning fill light, Mark Levinson premium audio, panoramic sunroof. Wheel size is 255/45R22 for all four. Optional a convenience package. Optional a tech package, which has a panoramic camera, a rearview mirror camera, and an advanced parking power assist system. The MSRP of this vehicle with shipping is $78,660. This vehicle rolls off the assembly line at the US plant. As we said before, the TX550 plug-in version is indeed a little bit more expensive, but for this vehicle, the outdoor price of which is also over $80,000. Because this TX has the F-Sport package, its appearance is tougher than the TX models we have seen before. It looks a little bit more sporty in some details. The general outline is not much different from the TX350 we have seen. It is just that the overall length is slightly longer than the TX350 by about 10 millimeters. I observed that the length difference is caused by the difference in external accessories. There is no difference in the body itself. Narrow lamp set and protruding forehead, daytime running lights, and the chrome-plated strip across in front are staggered. The entire center grille design has been moved downwards, which is a popular design element currently unified by Lexus, and even the larger Toyota family. This vehicle has a headlight cleaning device, fog lights on the left and right, and a turn light on the lower left and right. From the side shape and lines of this TX500H are exactly the same as those of the TX350, from which we don't see much difference. There are only some differences in the color and shape of the outer accessories. In fact, the area and proportion of the chrome-plated bright strips on the body of TX350 are not large. But on this F-Sport version of the TX500H, which flaunts its sporty characteristics, we can see that the chrome bright strips have been basically removed from the sides and replaced entirely with black decorations. It seems that Lexus simply interprets the sport as black on the TX. Friends often talk about it with me, which if you only watch pictures and videos, you will doubt whether this one is the SUV with the largest interior space in the family. But what I'm saying is that as long as you stand next to it, you will know that this TX is really big. Whether it is the height of the front cabin or the huge size of the body, its size should be considered relatively large in the American mid-size three-row SUV market. The lower edge of the door also covers the body of the car. The opening angles of the four doors are consistent with the TX350, which is quite satisfactory and not exaggerated. As this relatively high-priced TX, we can see that although Lexus's material configuration is quite high, it is not radical. At this price point, it does not have power-operated suction doors, and of the four windows, only the two front windows use double-layer glass, while the two rear windows use single-layer glass. Using my height as a reference, I don't need to use any pedals to get on and off this car, and there is no inelegant posture. But it can be clearly felt that this one is slightly higher than the TX350. The floor of this vehicle is still slightly higher. It is equipped with 4 22-inch wheels. The dimensions are really big, and the wheels have this blacker color that's exclusive to the F-Sport, which is a little more complicated. In the TX series, there are certain differences in the front braking systems between the TX350, TX500H, and TX550H Plus, in which TX500H and TX550H Plus are completely identical. The brakes on the front are all aluminum opposed 6-piston with 15.7-inch diameter vented discs. It can be clearly and intuitively felt that its braking performance is much better than that of the 350 subjectively. The rear discs are all the same as the 350, with a 13.3-inch diameter ventilated disc. The overall style and detail of the rear isn't too different from the TX350 we looked at before. We can only tell which is the 350 and which is the 500H by the logo. The rear spoiler incorporates a high-mounted brake light. Door frame aerodynamic kits on both sides. In the middle is the reversing camera, here is the rear-view mirror camera, and the rear wiper. The latest design element of the family is the through-type tail light. The bumper at the rear does not protrude significantly. The design below the bumper position is relatively complex and has more elements, with a tow hook in the back. Even on the F-Sport version of the TX, it has one each exhaust on the left and right, in a very hidden design. Common family style keys. There's 2 speakers on the trunk tailgate, and there's a very small light. The lower edge of the trunk of the vehicle is relatively high. After the 3rd row of seats is opened up, the low depth is more than a full arm's length. The lower depth of trunk is still performing very well. But even though it has a very straight and angular shape, depth of entry up top is still not too rich. Buttons control the 3rd row, the subwoofer, and the 120-volt 1500-watt 3-phase power socket and a hook above. The right side is not very functional. There's a very small light on each side. Lift the cover up. Here are the simple tools that come with the car. There's a retractable curtain underneath. This car has a spare tire. The spare tire is under this cover. Space performance with the 3rd row of seats folded down. The space performance with both the 2nd and 3rd rows folded down at the same time is identical to that of the TX350. It seems that the center console interior of this high-end TX500H is basically the same as that of the TX350. It's just that the configuration of this car is relatively high. It can be seen that the current configuration of this car should be basically all the configurations that Lexus can think of at price point. Suede trim is also embellished in appropriate locations. One touch-up down on all 4 windows. Some buttons on the left side of the steering wheel. This car also has the 3-in-1 linkage mode of the Lexus family's head-up display, the dashboard, and the shortcut buttons on steering wheel. The shortcut keys on the steering wheel also have 2 functions in one key. Observe and use through the interface in the heads-up display. The instrument panel of this car is also the latest style of the Toyota series. The dashboard has 3 display modes, which is divided into 3 display areas, left, middle, and right. Each area can display different information. There are also 3 sets of memory modes. After storing the 3 sets of memory modes, you can switch between the 3 sets of memory modes while driving, which is also a common component of the high-end models of the Toyota series. It also has driver attention monitoring. The steering wheel is an F-Sport one, which feels great. The steering wheel is a bit thicker than other versions. There are perforated leather and convex shapes at both 3 and 9 o'clock. It's more comfortable to hold in your hands, and the leather is also very delicate. There are paddle shifters at the back. The light set has automatic on and off and automatic high beam functions. The front wipers have rain sensing function. Rear view mirror camera. Eyeglass cases without panoramic mirror. The central screen is the standard configuration of the new generation of Lexus products on mid to high-end models. It integrates the air conditioner and the central screen. This TX is both an F-Sport and a hybrid, so the information displayed is relatively rich. It has normal mode, sport mode, eco mode, and customized driving mode. Active sound control has 3 levels of adjustment. The energy flow design of this vehicle is a little more graceful and not so straight. Power distribution of the 4-wheel drive system. Internal 3D surround, external 3D surround. Reverse view, wide-angle reversing view, forward wide-angle view. Front view. There are 3 ports on the right, 2 for charging and 1 for data exchange. There is a wireless charging pad below. Pushing open the cover, there is a storage compartment underneath with a 12-volt charger socket. The 2 dice cup-style cup holders can be taken out. The volume inside the central armrest box is relatively large and does not have any functionality, which is completely consistent with the previous TX350. Sitting inside this TX500H, You can feel that its configuration is higher than the TX350 we have seen before, but the high configuration is moderate and relatively high. For this price, I think Lexus is relatively cautious and moderate. If a more radical luxury brand were to do it, it might be even more exciting. In terms of space, you can feel that there is not much difference from the TX350 that I have seen before. The space in the first row is still great. After all, the biggest feature Lexus has given to this vehicle is the space. This set of seats has a relatively more wrapped feel than the TX350 we have seen before. The edges of seat cushion and seat back are relatively more convex than the TX350. In particular, the Lexus family's F Sport seats take slightly better care of the shoulders than the other versions. As a product in this price range, both of its driver and passenger adjustments are the same. The seat adjustment items are also regular items, nothing too fancy. The lumbar support is all two-way adjustable. The driver's seat has 3 memory functions, but the passenger seat does not. The overall feeling of the first row of seats is that they have a sense of wrapping and support among the so-called comfortable seats. They are not very sporty seats. They mainly focus on a comfortable feeling. In terms of materials, this car is also slightly better than the TX350 I've seen before, with the soft material up top. The soft material, leather, scattered suede, but underneath, left and right, both pure plastic, the harder plastic. Looking from inside the car, you can't see the metal in the window frames, they're wrapped in plastic. There's a noise-canceling action when the window closes up, which is not perfect though. Material of the door panel, upper soft material, leather. The bottom is just hard plastic, on which there's no soft feel at all. The center console material, the top is soft, the bottom is hard plastic. You can't touch the hard plastic when your legs are leaning on the center console. The plastic on the shift platform is made of soft material. Compared with the second row of the TX350, it actually doesn't feel much different. There is no problem with the space at all, which is exactly the same as the TX350. The feeling of the seats is also exactly the same. The seats feel very thick and very soft. It feels quite comfortable to sit on. Height adjustable armrests. The rear configuration is relatively high. The air conditioner in the back can be adjusted by zone. The left and right seats have 3 levels of seat heating and ventilation functions. There are 2 Type-C charging sockets below. There's a 120-volt, 1500-watt 3-phase power jack down there. The center floor hump isn't too high. A cup holder is designed in the central aisle. Same style as in front, like the dice cup, which are also removable. We have seen this before. Curtains on the door panels. Door panel material, upper part is soft material, middle part is leather material. Hard plastic underneath. Seat forward. To the end, a little farther forward. Backrest elevation angle max. The third row also has the same feel as the TX350. There is enough space, but the seats are not very comfortable. For space now, I straighten my waist. You can also see that the head and legroom are enough, but they can't be said to be exciting. The seat cushions aren't long or high enough, which don't support the legs well. There are buttons on the left and right to adjust the third row seats. There is a Type-C port charger socket on the left and right, a cup holder and storage in each side. All above are consistent with 350. The air outlet is placed in this position. Even the third row of seats has some suede decoration. Although this vehicle has been added with a so-called F Sport performance package and sports the banner, here I assure you that in the comfort mode, it is a pure comfort style. First of all, let's talk about power. The power performance is much better than that of TX350. Although their basic gasoline engines are exactly the same, both are 2.4-liter turbocharged engines, but with the help of an electric motor, the overall power experience of this 500h is much better. Electric motors, small displacement engines, and turbochargers learn from each other's strengths. The 3 brothers supported each other during the acceleration process. In the early stage of starting from a standstill, when the turbo is not working yet, the motor quickly uses its own characteristic of instantaneous burst of torque peak to make up for the lack of power in the early stage of the gasoline engine. When rapid acceleration is required, the engine, turbocharger, and electric motor work together to achieve the driver's request for rapid acceleration. Just like other ordinary hybrid models, the motor has relatively little time and opportunity to work alone. Only when the power battery is fully charged, the motor will drive the vehicle alone when crawling at low speeds and driving at a constant speed. In other stages, the motor exists as auxiliary power to the engine. In this way, the power performance is much better than that of a simple 2.4-liter turbo TX350 in power scenarios such as the initial stage of starting, low speed creeping, and uniform secondary acceleration. At the same time, although the transmission of this vehicle is only 6-speed 1, due to the help of the motor, the overall smoothness of the vehicle's driving is also very excellent. Even there is a sense of frustration when quickly releasing the accelerator pedal at low speeds that is common in multi-speed transmissions. But it's not obvious at all on this vehicle. I also experienced the GLS 450 during this period. I feel that the power of this TX500H is not much different from that of a 6-cylinder turbocharger. If Toyota's mid-size products are destined to miss the 6-cylinder engine in the future, I suggest that this 2.4-liter turbocharged hybrid should be used as the main power source in mid-size vehicles. Don't use that 2.4T gasoline engine alone to drive such a large vehicle. At least that's how it should be in Lexus's mid-size vehicles. The suspension is also very comfortable in comfort mode. Due to the adaptive suspension, the overall feeling is more comfortable than the purely mechanical version of the TX350. Before I picked up this vehicle, I saw that it said Sports Tune shock absorbers and suspension. I was also worried that Toyota would not tune this big guy into a nondescript sporty style. After getting the car, I realized that my worries were unnecessary. Compared with the suspension adjustment of the TX350, the suspension of this car feels more resilient and is more careful in modifying the fine road conditions. When you encounter a road condition, it will not let you feel the vibration of the road surface at all. It doesn't feel like you're sitting on a boat like Range Rover or GLS either, but compared to the TX350, it is relatively more comfortable to handle. When driving at high speed on a smooth undulating road surface, the body will have a relatively comfortable undulation range, and the body will also feel a certain sense of heaviness, but it is not as heavy as EVs, nor is it only heavy on the bottom plate like EVs. The braking of this car must be praised, but of course it shouldn't be praised, because this is the braking performance that should be achieved on a medium to large SUV. Regarding the braking performance of the TX350, I think Toyota should be blindly pursuing cost reduction. The first thing about the brakes of this 500H is that the brake pedal is very tight, and there is any clearance in the brake pedal. The point where the brakes work is very shallow, and you can feel the brakes starting to work with just a little pressure on your foot. No matter what speed range you apply the brakes for, you don't have to apply the brakes deeply, which is so great. At the same time, the more advanced point is that no matter which brake pedal position you step on, you will not feel the weight of this vehicle. I think this is even better than the LX600's braking feel. But I still want to advise Toyota that some costs cannot be reduced. The quietness of this vehicle is pretty good. Wind noise and tire noise are basically within a reasonable range. During rapid acceleration, the engine will also make a roaring sound, and the sound of the turbocharger working can be heard at many times. This car is equipped with rear-wheel steering, and you can feel that the turning radius is relatively smaller than that of the TX350. When moving a parking space in a garage or a small parking space, it feels relatively convenient, but it is still a gasoline car after all, and it is not as exaggerated as the four-wheel steering on the EVs. According to the information released by the EPA, the maximum range of this car is 481 miles. But after driving it for a few days, I feel that after filling up the tank, the maximum cruising range shown on the meter is around 360 miles. Of course, this may have something to do with the fact that my test drive was quite violent and I often idled. In other aspects, it feels similar to the TX350. The steering force of the steering wheel is also relatively comfortable, and there are no flaws. Again, from a purely driving experience perspective, this TX500H feels better than the TX350. The most important aspects are power and braking. It seems that TX500H can represent the balanced matching mode of TX models. Of course, there is also a TX550H Plus that I haven't tried yet. I can't report back to you until I do. If TX is your only target and your budget allows it, I think this TX500H may be a much better option. But if you just live a simple life, the TX350 is enough. It's just that for this size and price, the TX350 is not perfect. In summary, this is the experience video of this 2024 TX500H. Overall, although this car comes with an F Sport performance package, in fact this car is also mainly comfortable. Don't think of it as a particularly sporty and violent style. Generally speaking, if compared with the TX350 we have seen before, because the price is relatively high, the configuration must be relatively high. This is for sure. In terms of power, it does perform better than the pure 2.4T gasoline engine powertrain, especially at the beginning of the start and during rapid secondary acceleration. In particular, I have to praise its braking system, which is much more exciting than the TX350. Of course, we've talked about the TX model a lot before, so we won't repeat it here today, but if you're a TX fan, you'll want to go with the TX, and you've got the budget for it. And if you feel that the power and braking performance system of the TX350 will not satisfy you, then you can take a look at this TX500H. From a product perspective alone, I think the TX500H is still acceptable. The problem is that the price is indeed not cheap. Of course, as always, buy what you like. Don't control it. Don't be shy. Above video. Thank you all.